Do you want to take control of your health? Hear the truth about dieting and weight loss? Learn the best strategies for maintaining a healthy lifestyle? This is the Yossi Muller Show.
And welcome to the show. I'm Yossi Muller.
And I'm Duddy Muller.
Duddy is a chef with a background in nutrition.
Yossi is a nutritionist with a background in nutrition.
Every show we do, we take another myth and debunk it.
We crush it.
Today's topic is willpower. People think that dieting is all about willpower. Why wasn't I successful at dieting? Because I just don't have enough willpower.
But that's not true, because people with willpower aren't more successful.
And if you think about it, this whole invention of obesity and nutritionists and the science of nutrition, this is only going on for about 100 years. In the 1900s and prior, people didn't have more willpower. So it's not that they just had more willpower and all of a sudden everyone's being all irresponsible.
Something else changed. The situation changed.
So it's not about willpower, but rather it's about something else. It's how well do you budget your willpower? Everyone has a certain amount of willpower. Willpower is a finite resource. There's a limit to it.
Means less than infinite.
Yes. And how well we utilize it, how well we budget it, that is what determines whether we are successful or not.
Aha, interesting.
Willpower is a muscle. And a muscle gets stronger when you work it out, but it gets weaker if you overuse it.
So using willpower can make your willpower stronger, but it also can make it weaker if you use it wrongly.
And you use it more than necessary.
At the same time, if you don't use it at all, it can get weaker. When you give in, for example, your willpower actually is less strong the next time you have a situation where you have some sort of need for willpower.
Like any other muscle, willpower gets stronger when you use it, but when it's overused, it gets weaker. And it starts off strong in the morning and it decreases as the day goes on. And that's because you're constantly using your willpower.
Even if you're not thinking about it, you actually make many decisions every single day.
And willpower goes up and down throughout the dieting process. The trend is that it does go downward. You have less willpower as time goes on, unless you make a point to purposely budget it and conserve your willpower. Now,
the problem is
that in America, at this particular time in history, our willpower is challenged way too much. So we don't have to worry that we're using our willpower too little. So we don't have to worry that, I have to exert self-control and it's okay that I'm exerting willpower. No, you're going to exert willpower. Just like a marathon runner doesn't have to worry that he or she is not utilizing his or her muscles, right? So we utilize plenty of willpower, even if we take steps to decrease the need for willpower. So what we need to do is make sure we're not using too much willpower. And the way to do that is mainly by modifying our environment.
Yep.
And when we change our situation, by not allowing ourselves to be around tempting, fattening food any more than necessary, we reduce the need for willpower, and that is a big part of how we are going to become successful. Now, if we do not modify our environment, we just allow things to remain the way they are, where there's constant exposure to junk food that's tempting, certain things are going to happen, and they're not good.
Okay. What are these things, Yossi?
We may slip on our diet,
Right.
and we also may not slip. But even if we don't slip up, we're going to be using up willpower.
Regardless if you make the right decision or not, you use up willpower when you make a decision.
So when you slip up, the consequences are greater than you think. Most people think that if I eat a piece of cake, okay, so it's 1/8 of a pound if you do the math. No, the consequence isn't just the calories and pounds you gain from what you eat. The consequence is that you become a completely different person when you slip up. The animal part of your brain becomes quite active and much stronger. You ever hear the word electrolyte?
I have.
You ever hear of the word electron?
I have heard of that as well.
That's because your brain runs on electricity. Your whole body runs on electricity.
Mm-hmm.
And electrolytes are minerals that help your body run on electricity. And the part of the brain that is animalistic, that cares more for short-term pleasure, starts lighting up and there's electrical activity.
So your brain actually changes. It shows on the brain scans and how it acts and reacts. It focuses on short-term and animalistic needs as opposed to the self-control, long-term resolve part of your brain because you use up the brain power in those areas. The lights just go off. The lights are off and somebody is still home. And you can't see where you're going. That part of your brain is off. The willpower muscle of your brain turns off after a while when it's overused.
And there's a muscle called willpower, which is measurable. It's measurable in brain scans. And the best way to measure willpower is actually a blood test. You simply donate blood and then you send it to the laboratory and they test how much dopamine is in the blood. So the dopamine content in your blood is how much willpower you have. So if you slip up on your diet, you lose dopamine. And if you stick to your diet, you get more dopamine. But if you put yourself in a situation where you have to use extreme amount of willpower, you lose dopamine too. Now, a few interesting things about willpower and dopamine. One is that if you made a poor decision, you lose the dopamine. But if someone else tells you to do it, like an authority, like me, then you don't lose dopamine. So if I tell you you could eat a Hamantash on Purim and you eat it, you do not lose dopamine because you are following orders.
So while you ate the Hamantash, which might not be great, you did not ruin your willpower for future decisions.
Also, if you planned it in advance and you stuck with your plan, you said 2 weeks in advance, this Purim I will eat a Hamantash at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and you sit down at 6 o'clock and you eat that Hamantash and you're paying attention and you savor it, you will not lose willpower. You will not lose dopamine. There will be a slight craving, which is, habitual, that you just tasted something that tastes good, but there's no actual physiological loss of willpower involved. And because of this, people are always better off going on a diet that's less restrictive and sticking to it religiously rather than going on a very strict diet and breaking it.
It's more important to keep the diet than the diet be as restrictive.
So to be clear, you're better off going on a 1,500 calorie diet and sticking to it than going on a 1,000 calorie diet and breaking it just a little. Even if you're under the 1,500 calorie threshold, you're still much better off following a 1,500 calorie diet and keeping it.
Interesting.
So another myth is when people eat something that tastes pretty good and they say, you know what, those calories were worth it. It wasn't on my diet, but it was worth it. I have news for you. That's another myth, because if it's not on your diet, it's not worth it. And if it was planned, then it was worth it.
If it was planned, it was on your diet.
Yeah, even if it shouldn't be on your diet, if it was planned. Spontaneous eating is what completely wrecks your dopamine level. And that's why people who take heroin, explains science journalist Johan Hari, automatically become addicted to heroin. Yet, people who go for surgery and they get injected with the medical term for heroin, which is diamorphine, those people do not become addicted to heroin because they didn't choose it. It's only when we are not feeling good, we're feeling unsettled, and we spontaneously choose to take in an artificial substance that is highly pleasurable, only then do we become addicted. The point is that it's the spontaneous eating of addictive, unhealthy foods that wrecks our willpower. So this notion of it's worth it, that's a myth. It's never worth it. And it's so important to realize that what's bad about having an environment that constantly challenges our willpower is that if we slip, it's much worse than we think, because when we slip, our willpower gets diminished. And if we don't slip, but we're overly challenging our willpower, we will get weaker also.
So, Yossi, how do we avoid being in situations that we have to fight ourselves?
Okay, so let's work this through. So when it comes to events like weddings, etc., there's a number of times a year you go to such events. Maybe don't go for that as frequently as you ordinarily go. The duration, how long you stay. Maybe stay for 3 hours instead of 6 hours if it's family. Maybe stay for 2 minutes instead of 5 hours if it's someone you barely know. If you're going away, maybe don't go away as often.
Right. Maybe limit how often you go away, or only go if you're going to be with someone who will remind you to eat properly.
Yeah, and be selective who you go to.
Right, absolutely.
If you're going to go to someone and you're going to gain 3 pounds over Shabbos and ruin 2 weeks of hard work, those people don't deserve you. as far as restaurants, before you drop $100 in a restaurant just so you could eat 6,000 calories, restaurants are overrated.
Yeah, I love it. I love restaurants because sometimes you can eat in a restaurant and you're healthy and you're good. But most of the time, I'm paying someone to give me something I don't want.
You're paying someone to kill 3 weeks of dieting.
Right, if that's not going to be a dopamine killer, the fact that not only did you break your diet, you also spent money on it.
So be selective of where you go. There are some restaurants that are more dieter friendly than others. And as far as your home is concerned, stop stocking your house with the amount of junk food that you currently stock it with. Stock it with less junk food than that. And also the visibility. The counter is a very visible place in your house. The cabinet is less visible.
And every time you see this unhealthy food, your dopamine will be affected. Your willpower will be affected regardless if you make the right decision or not. So avoid it by hiding it.
And the freezer is a safer place to keep it than the cabinet. Also, consider having junk food. If you have family or guests, you're going to want to have some junk food in the house. Consider having a type that you don't care for as much. Personally, rugelach, for me, if I eat one, I'll eat the entire container.
Yeah.
And I'm not just the one in my house, in the neighbor's house. I'll start knocking on doors in the neighborhood. But I'm not so into Viennese Crunch or jelly rings, so I'll stock my house with those. Also, if you have food in portion-sized bags, you're less likely to overeat.
Yeah. I mean, in my house, I have a rule. Candy, unhealthy food can either be in one of two bags, the portion-sized bags or the garbage bag. Yossi, aren't there incredible studies on this topic?
My favorite is the one that Brian Wansink conducted with popcorn. He would take large groups.
Good old Brian. Brian Wansink.
Oh, what's that? What's that about?
Brian Wansink. Who is he? Nobody knows.
Brian Wansink? He's a famous scientist.
Oh, okay.
Socialist.
Social scientist.
Social scientist who studies food. So he would give large groups of students popcorn. He would give one group a small bag of popcorn, then the next group a bigger bag, the next group a bigger bag. Then one group will give stale popcorn to, one group will give fresh, delicious popcorn to. And he found something very interesting. That people tend to eat 3/4 of a bag of popcorn on average. Some people finish it, some people eat half, but on average, people go through about 3/4. And it doesn't matter so much if it's a big size bag or a small bag or if it's stale. So can you imagine? You have a tiny little bag of fresh popcorn. On average, people go through about 3/4. And then you give someone a tremendous bag, a huge bag of stale popcorn, they'll still go through close to 3/4 of a bag because the size of the bag makes a big difference. And individual portions, you will eat less than if you get an empty plate and you sit there with platters of food. And large cups are very good because hopefully you're drinking water or seltzer or unsweetened coffee or unsweetened tea. My favorite is Tezo iced passion tea. And then you'll drink so much more. And there's so many people complain, I don't drink enough water. Why don't you just drink from very big cups?
You will end up drinking more without even realizing it.
The average American drinks 3 cups. Doesn't matter what size. So I drink from 32-ounce cups. So I get my 12 cups of water that way.
Yeah, that reminds me of a mug I just saw. Someone got a present for a coffee drinker. It's a mug. It's a 64-ounce mug. And it says on it, 1 cup of coffee a day or something along those lines. The larger the cup, you might not finish the cup, but you still will be drinking more.
And as far as meals are concerned, there are different types of foods you could serve by your meals. There's healthier foods and less healthy foods. And also the amount of food. If you serve a ton of food at the meal, you're going to feel pressure to eat. Also the amount of variety. When there's 6 main courses and 6 side dishes, you're going to be tempted to try everything. Variety is a big cue. It makes it difficult. And we mentioned individual portions. And the duration of the meal. If the meal takes 2.5 hours, you're more likely to eat. And guests also make it difficult because guests are also part of the population of people who think that cake is like an everyday item and pizza's lunch and sesame chicken is supper and ice cream is a snack. Like they're from the general population, these guests.
And they might bring something that's not healthy, or you might feel the pressure to feed them foods that are not healthy.
So consider how often you have these guests. And also, maybe have guests not for a meal. You're allowed to invite someone not for a meal.
Right, of course. You could train yourself to be comfortable with asserting yourself tactfully. You don't want to insult people too much, but be comfortable with asserting yourself at home, at events, other people's homes, because if you have to fight with yourself just to tell someone that you're not supposed to eat this, that's another fight with your willpower. You don't have the willpower to do this.
And it's not always fun to be a guest by someone and not eat so much. I remember when I was younger, I was a very, very popular guest. People liked having me over because I would eat so much food. And now that I'm healthy and now that I'm assertive, you think I'm not popular? You think people don't want me to come to their house for a meal? They don't. You're right. They don't.
Yeah, well, a less popular guest means you're less likely to be invited to situations which aren't even good for you in the first place.
No, okay, of course we want to be social, but you could assert yourself. Now, besides for willpower as it relates to dieting, the amount of willpower we have to exert outside of dieting will also affect our ability to be on a diet. So therefore, we should manage our other stressors. If we have other things stressing us out, we should manage it so that we have some willpower left for our diet. And we should make sure to get enough sleep. And we should engage in self-care. We got to take care of ourselves so that we have willpower left for our diet. And there are some people who should take medicine. There's a medicine that increases willpower. This probably needs an explanation. The name of the medicine is called Adderall, and it's in a class of medicines that increase willpower, increase dopamine. And medicine is more effective than surgery because surgery does not do anything good for your brain. It just makes your stomach. Sleeve surgery just makes your stomach smaller. And some people should do sleeve surgery, but I noticed that people are much quicker to do surgery than to take the medicine, which is a shame because while surgery is good for some people, medicine is good for an even larger group of people.
Isn't Adderall meant for treating ADD?
Okay, so ADD, as an attention deficit disorder, is one thing that Adderall is used for. Adderall is also used for people who have trouble controlling their eating, and it's very effective for both. And I just want to clarify, attention deficit disorder is a little bit of a misnomer because people who have ADD actually are able to pay attention, much more attention than other people. If it's something they're interested in, they could hyper-focus and focus for many hours in a row without losing focus. So ADD is actually a willpower deficit disorder. And people with low willpower have a hard time concentrating and focusing on something they don't find interesting. So ADD is a deficiency in willpower. And people on diets often have a deficiency in willpower before they start the diet. And once they start their diet, does that willpower get challenged?
Ooh.
So let's understand that ADD and dieting are extremely connected. And the medicine for ADD and for dieting is simply addressing a lack of willpower. And I tell some people to take the medicine, and some people listen to me and take it, and it helps them. And if we're going to talk about willpower, we should talk about how willpower is essentially choosing something you don't feel like doing because of a long-term benefit. In other words, when you have a choice, you exert your willpower to make the better choice. But it's important to realize that if you don't have a choice or you don't feel like you have a choice, you don't have to exert much willpower. And let's give an example. If dieting is so important to you that it's not much of a choice,
I can't eat this candy because dieting is important to me.
And specifically, if we want to be super motivated to do something and not feel like we have a choice, think about what's really important to you. What's really, really, really important to you. What are things that you don't think you have a choice? And most people will answer in terms of religion, family, livelihood, those type of areas that they have tons of motivation and they're not busy. I'm on a diet. I'm not on a diet. When it comes to these super important things.
Right. You're not going to say, I don't want to insult the person when it comes to something that's affecting your family, right?
Yeah.
You want to connect whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, in this case, to follow a diet, with one of your higher or highest motivations.
Right. So if you could connect dieting to, be it religion, family, livelihood, whatever it is that's really, really important to you,
then you took away the choice. It's no longer a problem with willpower because you don't need it. There's no choice. You connected it to this thing, and there's only one option.
A good example of attaching what you're trying to accomplish to your highest values is Steve Jobs, the late Steve Jobs of Apple fame. He would go 3 weeks straight where he would eat only carrots. If you eat carrots for 3 weeks straight, you don't have to take a shower. That's the way it is.
Wow.
The reason why he did that is because if he didn't have to take a shower every day, he would have an extra 10 minutes a day to devote to his company. And his company was his highest value. So his diet of carrots wasn't a choice. It was very easy for him to stick to his diet of carrots. So we should link our desire to be healthy and to be thin to what is really, really, truly important to us. And if you give it some thought, it's not that hard to connect it. Our health and weight really do affect what is truly, truly important to us. So the take-home message for today is, it's not about how much willpower you have, but rather it's how you budget your willpower. So don't worry if you have or don't have willpower. Just budget willpower accordingly, and you can go wherever you want in this area of life of weight loss and health.
And that brings us to the end of this episode.
Thank you for listening.
We hope you'll join us next time.